All right, let's get going. Hello and welcome to today's webinar, Decoding Elementary Computer Science. Thank you for taking time out and being with us here today. Just a few housekeeping note items before we jump in. We'll be running a live question and answer session towards the end of the webinar. So please feel free to use the chat feature to pop in any questions that you might have, and we will address them when the time comes. Also, if you miss any part of the content presented today, we'll be sending all registrants the on-demand recording when it's available. So my name is Steph Forbes. I am the Coding and Robotics Channel Manager for Pittsco Education, and I have had the pleasure of spending the last 23 years working alongside educators, helping them learn more about computer science, engineering, and robotics, helping them build and implement programs for their classroom. And I am super excited to be here with you today. And I'll turn it over to my colleague, Annika Miller.
Hi, good morning. I'm Annika. I'm a learning specialist here at Pittsco. I'm a former teacher with licenses in elementary, K-12 computer science, and K-12 technology and engineering. I taught for 9 years in STEM specific, including computer science and STEM related contents using project-based learning, and was involved in leading the 5th through 12th vertical alignment my last 3 years of teaching. And I'm very excited to be here with you all this morning.
So just to go over the agenda of what we're going to do today, we're going to have a little bit of an introduction into our host sponsor for the webinar. We're going to talk about why elementary computer science and why it's important. We're going to talk through some examples and samples of different types of solutions and way that you can build the K-6 computer science program. And then we'll have a question and answer session. So a little bit about the hosting for the webinar. So Pittsco Education, founded by educators, is a leader in future-ready learning fundamentally rooted in STEM. For over 50 years, we've been offering a comprehensive range of scalable hands-on resources and curriculum. We help educators create learning environments that address all learning styles and help all students find success while solving problems, being creative, articulating ideas, and thinking with their hands. One goal that we have every year is how we measure success is the number of students we serve. And so every year we serve more than 3 million students annually. We want to be true partners in education, not just for this year, next year, but for the next 20 years. You can see statistics of that more than 44% of our customers have been with us for over 20 years. And then we have a breadth of products, everything from STEAM, STREAM, computer science, robotics, and full-scale programs with our systems offerings so that we can really focus in on and customize programs that meet the needs of a district, a school building, or a classroom. The importance of, we always say, if you start with Pittsco from K to 12, you'll be exposed to and explore over 1,000 careers. And that we want to ensure that we're supporting teachers along the way, whether that's through professional development, through robust curriculum, or through ensuring that they have the right customer support to be successful. So Annika, tell us a little bit about what is computer science?
Yeah, so computer science isn't just about coding or knowing how a computer works. It includes all these pieces that you see here, like cybersecurity and data structures and robotics and artificial intelligence, which is huge right now in schools as we figure out how to teach and address it with students. It includes learning about how to make technological impacts and positive impacts on society as well. And it can also teach students so much more than just a coding language. It teaches them computational thinking, innovative design processes, how to approach emerging technologies, which are constantly expanding, data and analysis, digital citizenship, and technological processes, which they will use outside of computer science setting and in any future career.
So speaking of careers, what is the career outlook and why is computer science and in introducing students to computer science and building that workforce so important. So if we look at the career outlook, 67% of all new jobs in STEM are in computing, which relates back to the topics that Annika was just talking about of what makes up computer science. And the growth rate is 2 times that of the national average of all the other careers out there. And if we look at kind of the future high demand jobs and thinking of jobs of the future and jobs that have not yet been defined, we see AI and machine learning specialists, which Annika talked about. How do we utilize AI for the benefit in education? What is it that we need to be teaching students about AI? So we have specialists, we have analysts, we have engineers. And so industry knows that they're going to need jobs with these skill sets and with these backgrounds, but they may not know exactly what the job is going to entail, and what the specific skills are going to be. So now that we've looked a little bit at the career landscape and what that pipeline is going to need to look like, what's happening in schools to help foster and build that? So we know from a political landscape, we've seen more of an investment and a focus on bringing in computer science through the PAC, the Compact to Advance K-12 Computer Science, where all 50 governors sign with the focus and the commitment to expand accessibility to students K-12 in the areas of computer science. And we know we're making strides in increasing access from that high school level, and that 57.5% of high schools offer at a minimum a foundation computer science class. And we're seeing that statistic grow year over year. But one concerning statistic is the 5.8% of students that are enrolling in these computer science classes. So while we're seeing the accessibility increase, we're not seeing the necessary enrollment and graduation through with that readiness happening. And so how can, and this ties back to the importance of, introducing it to them earlier and exposing kids to more careers that have that STEM and computing correlation, back at that early age.
So why is computer science learning important? Not only is it going to be an area of high demand jobs like Steph mentioned, but as we said before, computer science learning teaches students to develop important skills like problem solving and critical thinking, communication, collaboration, creativity, and perseverance. Especially with coding can be challenging, and when students stick with it and fix all their bugs, it can be extremely rewarding for them to see their ideas come to life. And that building of that perseverance is something they can take into any class. Actually, all of these skills and the thinking processes they will use in other classes in school, in daily life outside of school, and in any job they have in the future, even those undefined ones that we don't know what they look like yet. There are also connections between computer science and coding and learning new languages and learning math. So starting computer science learning early is important because it helps students build those thinking processes to tackle those other contents. So approaching building a computer science program can be a little daunting. Starting at the school-wide level, it's extremely important to think about the experiences that you want students to have throughout their time in elementary and how you'll vertically align that as students progress. From my own experience, this also needs to include talking to upper grade levels if a computer science program is already in place. So if that's true for you, I would start by reaching out to computer science teachers at the middle school level and asking what skills would be most important for students to leave elementary with. And my guess is they'll say like problem solving, teamwork, computer science basics, and knowing that terminology. From there, you can decide what's best for each grade level in terms of user interface. So either screen-free or maybe a web-based app, and products that support the concepts and build teamwork through age-appropriate pair programming. So students find it really easy to focus on the big picture and end result. So you want to make sure that you choose a product that helps them to decompose that into smaller details and answer thinking questions like, what do we want to happen in this specific moment? Or what are the steps or movements that need to happen to get there? And what does the user need to do? So whenever I decided what products to use, I would think about what teaches the computer science concept the best without extra distractions. So for example, when first teaching algorithms and sequencing, I wanted a product that had limited other options, but could complete a task like a maze. Especially good for early grades. So it's great to use onboard coding where students just push buttons to tell a robot where to go. This helps students really focus in on that sequencing. Moving up in grades, tactile readers can start to allow students more coding options and movements, but still focus students on building a physical algorithm. Whereas when you move into block coding in upper grade levels, there's a lot more blocks and coding options available all the time, which is what you want when you're ready for students to combine sequencing with events and variables and conditionals. So all of these things are things you want to consider as you're scaling out your program.
So we know that there's a lot of great digital resources that help teach computer science and the ideas of computing and technology, but we also know the benefit of hands-on learning, and especially in computer science. So much of what is done in computer science is very theoretical or theory-based, and that hands-on really allows the students the opportunity to apply these concepts, to experience these concepts, to gain that deeper level of understanding, and also to gain those practical skills that'll be so necessary, as Annika was mentioning, the computational thinking and the collaboration that will directly follow them through their learning journey. Also, the hands-on learning provides that active engagement. So students are being active learners in the process. They're not just consuming the information, but they're actively involved in experimenting and problem solving and creating, which we know leads to that deeper level understanding and retention. And then that feedback loop, when students are working with a hands-on manipulative to explore computer science and technology, they're able to easily get that feedback, which allows them to quickly assess their understanding, adjust their approach, be iterative in those crucial moments, and help learning and improvements. And it also helps students identify and correct mistakes in real time. So as we saw in the previous slide, we have a breadth of solutions that we can work alongside districts and schools to help build a program. So what we've done is we've scaled that down and focused on, from a K-6 perspective, what could a computer science program look like? We know there's a lot of different solutions out there that we can bring into a classroom. So what are the things that we need to be thinking about? Similar to what Annika was talking about, what's important for me to bring into my classroom and how I want my students to experience it. So what's our why? Is this being driven by mandates where we're going to be accountable to standards? Is this about bringing more project-based learning into my classroom? Do I have a digital program like code.org happening and I want to supplement with something that's the hands-on piece. So as we start to think about, what could this program and which solutions will make up this program, what's our why and what's our objectives that we're trying to achieve year over year from a scalability standpoint, as Annika mentioned, what do I want my students learning? How do I want that transfer of knowledge to happen? What type of technology do I want in resources and tools do I want them to be engaged with? How do I want them to interact with careers? So all of the things to kind of be thinking about as we're evaluating the solutions. And we'll see several of these are over multiple grade levels. So also taking stock of where are my students at? What prior experience do they have with physical computing? They may have been doing Scratch on the computer, but have they ever taken a physical device, a physical robot, and programmed it? So those are some things to be thinking about as we start to plan out what a progressive K-6 program will look like. After we kind of decide, what is our objectives and what's our why, what type of tools and resources and experience do we want our students to have? You'll see several tools here look very similar. They're mobile robots. But we also know the importance of variation in that transfer of knowledge. I was at a conference last week and I was talking to a computer science teacher, and she came from industry and specifically in the IT. And we were talking about, how she sets her classroom up. And she said, based off of industry, I knew I had my foundational skills and understanding. Again, similar to what Annika talked about, building that foundational skills. But I knew that every client was going to have a different system or a different need or a different platform to me to be working in. And so it was really important for me to be able to understand their need, but also be able to work within their system. And so in her classroom, she focuses on building that foundational knowledge, but providing different learning opportunities and different tools for her students to engage with, so that they have that more well-rounded understanding of, I might be working with a robot with this feature, but when I move to fourth grade, I'm going to be working with a more creative digital tool, same similar applicable skills, but just scaled up and looking at it in a different way. So what do we want that to look like and what's important to us? So let's talk through an example. So Bebot was one of the solutions that was mapped out that would fit into that K-6 computer science solution. So what is Bebot? It's a floor robot. It is screen-free, beginner-friendly. It is programmed through the buttons on the top of the Bebot. So very low lift, really quick to get up and running. It's rechargeable, so there's no batteries that you have to worry about. So in this example, we tied the Bebot with the activity bundle. And so an example of this is if you were in a kindergarten classroom, we primarily see the Bebot being used in that kind of K-1 space. So let's say you were in a kindergarten classroom and you want to run stations, where the students are working in small groups and you're wanting to have kind of a different activity at each station. So with the Bebot and the activity bundle, it comes with 3 different pocket mats and 120 different cards that have letters, numbers, mathematical symbols, colors, shapes, and expressions. And then when you pair it with the teacher activity guide, it provides those lesson plans for teachers. And I believe, Heather, on that next slide, does it include? Yes. So it's 20 hours of content. In the activity, the teacher activity guide provides that lesson plan, so allows the teacher to kind of plan out where in the curriculum and where in the activity they want to incorporate it. So some examples of how you can use this is letter recognition, having the students program the Bebot to move to the A. You can do color recognition or shape recognition. So having them program it, start in one block and have it traverse. So they're starting to build that sequencing, that level of understanding of sequencing, programming, and planning out their path. We can also kind of up it a little bit and say, can you program your Bebot to get to the red circle the fastest or in the fewest number of button presses? So again, that efficiency and that computational thinking, can they take a problem and break it down to its simplistic form to achieve their goal? If we wanted to scale up the Bebot, we could add the world maps to it, which would move it into first grade and allows students to explore things like community, culture, the world, the sea. So starting to introduce more of those career connections as well. So similar to the Bebot, the Bluebot is a floor robot as well. Couple of different features to it. So let's say that we're in a second grade classroom. We have some state mandates, and we need this to be a more robust integration into the curriculum. And we need it to be very cross-curricular, so it's seamless to fit into the classroom. So again, Bluebot, similar to Bebot, it can be screen-free. does have a couple of different feature sets in that it is Bluetooth, so we can start to introduce a little bit of sensing into students, so the Bluebot can respond when other Bluebots are around it. There's multiple ways to program it as well. As you start to advance, you can incorporate a coding app. And the curriculum that supports this in this example is the curriculum volume 1, which gets more robust. And it follows the 5E learning model. So we're starting to get more in depth and moving from kind of that basic introductory with the Bbot and advancing into the types of computer science focuses that in concepts that they'll be learning about, the different types of the career clusters that they'll be connecting to. And with the 5E model, it pushes the students to go further. So there'll be more exploration, and there'll be more about students asking to explain and elaborate on their learning and their understanding and what they're experimenting with. And then that evaluation, so asking them to reflect back on their learning. The way that the curriculum is laid out is it's very comprehensive lesson plans that are cross-curricular, are supplemental math, SEL, English language arts, and science. And so they can be easily integrated as a supplement to what teachers are already teaching. We know that time is of the essence, especially in those middle grades. And so when we're looking to make this a more core part of what's being taught, we need to make sure that we have the curriculum to support that.
So Kubo is one of our robots that's also recommended for K through third. It allows teacher flexibility based on their students to decide if they want a screen-free experience or a digital one, or maybe a blend of the two. So even though Kubo, like Bbot and Bluebot, is K3, it's actually a really good bridge between that onboard coding where they're pressing the buttons with Bbot and Bluebot to block-based coding with CodeCube, Luma, and more, which we'll talk about here soon. So students code with Kubo using tag tiles, which are icon-based and fit together like pieces of a puzzle. The tag tile enables students to code even before they have learned how to read, because it has those icons. And it gives Kubo instructions on where to go, and the robot reads the instructions with its sensors. So students get an instant feedback on their code because they can see whether Kubo has made it to the destination or made the right turns. Teachers can also create their own maps with Kubo, which allows more cross-curricular activities like writing a story about an adventure Kubo goes on, or coding Kubo with a map that is based on a book being read in class. Kubo provides a great introduction to concepts like loops and subroutines and routes, all of which students will be learning about in greater detail in upper elementary and middle school. And like we've said, we want our solutions to be easy for teachers to plug in, and Kubo enables classrooms to get started quickly with out-of-box experiences. So tactiles have a chip that has a specific coding command built into them. And this kind of limits how students can use them to achieve their outcome because they only have so many of each. But like we said with Bluebot and Bbot, that helps students to practice their critical thinking to figure out what the most efficient solution possible is. Students can visually and physically build abstract concepts like loops, wait for, and variables because they can visually see what the robot is doing and they can debug as needed. Kubo's curriculum is scalable. The coding starter provides a great introduction, and then add-ons add more complex concepts with a total of 28 lessons that range from 25 to 45 minutes. Plus, with those add-ons that teach those advanced concepts, that would be Kubo Coding Plus, Kubo Coding Plus Plus, and Kubo Math. And then Kubo Play is the digital simulation tool, which offers students the opportunity to code a virtual Kubo. And that app can be used on its own or for blended learning where students test and fine-tune their code with the virtual Kubo before building it and running it with their physical robot. Kubo also offers a robust teacher portal with those free lesson plans and activities that provide the estimated time, as well as concepts that will be covered, list of any extra materials that will be needed, and student worksheets for assessments.
Great, thanks, Annika. So far we've been talking about different types of solutions that could be brought into a classroom, more on the mobile robot side. So we had the floor robots with Bbot and Bluebot. We had the two-wheeled robot that reads, the tag tiles with Kubo. And now we kind of transition into a different way or a different form of technology to bring in, that's still hands-on, but it engages kids in coding and computer science. And so CodeCube is a differentiator from the traditional physical coding. Most of the time we see mobile robots, but the idea is no fear coding. So it's a wearable haptic. And so haptics, if we go back to kind of the careers and the jobs of the future, the haptic market currently sits at about $5.86 billion, but by 2032, it's estimated to be at $17.49 billion. And we know just in our own daily lives, whether it's our smartwatch, our smartphone, the rings we put on our fingers to give us feedback on how our body's performing, that haptics is a growing market. And so how can we bring the idea of blending haptics also with creativity to students to start giving them a basic understanding of how this works, and how computer science relates to it. So CodeCube is a blend of coding and artistic creativity. So what the solution is made up of is a 8x8 pixel LED color pixel with 64 pixels total that can be programmed. It comes with a band that allows it to be a wearable. It also includes an accelerometer and a speaker. So again, giving feedback and responding to movement similar to other haptics that students may be encountering in their life. And it comes with cross-curricular activities that can be used to supplement math, science, SEL, and English language arts. So the way that the lessons work is that there's 9 lessons. So let's say in a 4th grade classroom, you're using maybe code.org as your preferred core computer science curriculum, but you want to supplement it and you want to bring a more artistic experience to the students to kind of differentiate what they may have already previously experienced. And so you can use the 9 lessons. There's 4 activities in each lesson. And each activity is designed to be completed in 1 class period. So again, understanding the need for classroom management and time being of the essence. And so through the activity guide, it would allow educators to kind of plan out what topics they're going to be teaching and which lesson can correspond with them. And so if we also think about areas where an experience like CodeCube could be of interest and motivating and engaging to students, is if we start to think about as they progress into those middle school levels where they're going to have opportunities for game design. That's one of the activities a couple of the activities that they'll explore how to code CodeCube for, is to create games on their haptic. Web applications and web design, so that digital graphic feel. So students will work through activities where they will have a message display across their haptic. In app design, so having the code cube respond and say something based off of the program and the activity. And so providing them an opportunity to experience computer science from more of that creative side that also ties back to potential programs and careers that they will be experiencing and have available to them as they move into middle school and high school.
Up next is Luma, and Luma is a Pittsco exclusive hands-on robot and makes coding very approachable for 4th to 6th graders. It builds off of CodeCube and Kubo and Bluebot by continuing to use all those skills students used and applying them to new lessons and challenges. Luma is unique in its content in that it's student facing and features vibrant animations and a cast of diverse characters. All content is delivered through the Luma app, which is web-based and requires no downloads or account creation. Students are immersed in Luma's story from the very beginning, where they meet the robot's inventors who are asking for help to find the industry Luma would fit best. So students then go on a journey where they meet 11 different industry professionals like an architect, emergency responder, a DJ, and more, and learn how to program Luma to help with a variety of different tasks. The career focus provides a good springboard for students into middle school and beyond. And Luma highlights a mix of STEM and non-STEM related careers. And actually, many of those careers aren't typically associated with computer science. Plus, the activities include cross-curricular connections. So for example, students meet a sound engineer and learn about musical concepts such as sound and pitch and how to apply them. In one of the activities, Luma will act as an ice cream truck, and students learn how to code Luma to play a song to let everyone know that the ice cream truck has arrived. Both the career and cross-curricular aspects were very intentional as we were developing Luma, because we wanted to engage kids from all backgrounds with a variety of interests. So Luma helps build on skills covered by the previous solutions, like I said, by reinforcing those concepts and skills, but also adding new ones. So students will learn how to use Luma's ultrasonic sensor to detect objects and follow lines using the line finder sensor. Students also learn more about complex coding topics, such as events and conditionals and nested loops, but also about data analysis and the impacts of tech on society and more. Plus, there are open-ended exploration and challenge activities that enable students to test their knowledge and try out their own programs. In total, Luma includes 10 activities and up to 40 hours of content. We recommend students work in pairs for this so that they can practice that collaboration and teamwork and problem-solving skills together. Luma also comes with resources for the educator, including teacher's guide, user guide, solution code, which is great for teachers who are not maybe as confident in coding themselves. Luma is still very approachable. It also includes standard alignments and PowerPoint lessons on a variety of computer science and technology topics.
Great. So again, going back to kind of the variation of solutions and experiences that are available to kind of build out a progressive program. So again, we go back and we've had the floor robots, we've had the two-wheeled robots, we've had the haptic. And so Twin Science would provide a little bit different lens into computer science. So we would call this more of a STEM plus C. So STEM plus computer science, in that students are going to be working with more of electronic feel type of manipulatives and hardware to build their projects. So thinking along the lines of if they were to progress into like digital electronics and digital engineering and or digital electronic engineering, this provides the students an experience to kind of go under the hood. So when we think about Bluebot and it having that clear case and being able to see inside of it and kind of what makes it up, this provides the students to kind of build that type of solution and that type of project using more of an electronic feel rather than a pre-built robot or a robot that you can design around. So what makes up the Twin Science robotics and coding experience is the hardware kit, but then there's also two digital applications, one for the teacher and one for the student. So let's talk through an example of where Twin Science would be a good solution when you're building your program. So the concepts and the content that Twin has developed really focuses on sustainability and technology for good. It can also be a really nice supplement to science. So let's say you're in a 5th or 6th grade classroom and you're really wanting to embed computer science and more project-based learning as a supplemental piece to your science curriculum. You would utilize the Twin Science Robotics and Coding Kit and the teacher app to kind of build your solution. And so one of the unique features of this solution is that it has a robust teacher app that allows teachers to customize the curriculum. So they can go in, can build your classroom with no student data, no student identifiable data, and then you can look through their resources of their STEM for Sustainability curriculum, and you can actually assign your students what you want them to learn. So that can include videos that go more in depth into the science concepts that you're talking about, games for them to play, trivia questions, and then the projects for them to work through. So the idea is that this would work alongside the curriculum that you would already be teaching. So you'd be teaching the foundational concepts and introducing them to different topics, and then use this as a supplement to provide them videos that allow them to go and explore more in depth about what they learned about, to play a game, to kind of continue to build and foster that learning and understanding, and then add that project-based learning with that culminating project. And it's all around technology for good and introducing students to different sustainability goals and sustainability concepts. And then the students have a portal, again, no identifiable information, and they work through that. So low lift from the teacher in that the content's developed already, and you can build your customized course. And then students can really, similar to Luma, students can really drive their own learning while working alongside in that supplemental manner. So we've covered a lot, and we've talked a lot about, things to be thinking about when we're decoding. What does computer science look like in that elementary space? How do we integrate it with impact? And what are the right solutions, to use? And so a lot of what we talked about today was providing that variation, but also the flexibility in that it's easy to use. We know that in all classrooms, it is extremely easy or important for solutions to get up and running really quickly. When we did a survey of computer science teachers and we asked them, what's the most important, some of the most important components that you feel that you need to be successful, you and your students need to be successful, it was, we need to start with pre-built robots to start teaching those foundational skills. But as we progress, we want to incorporate more, advanced technologies and more engineering components to it. And so in a lot of these solutions that you'll see that component starting with the onboard programming with Bebot, progressing to actually building code with Kubo, bringing in that art component with Kubo and the introduction of haptic robotics. Luma, from the standpoint of Luma, building in some of that engineering component and really focusing and harnessing the career components to them. And then that twin science experience as well. So again, pulling back the hood of technology and allowing students to experience that more of an electronics feel to it and how things are put together to make things work. So we've done a lot of talking, and we like to open the floor up for questions and answers and more dialogue. So Heather, do we have questions?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
So the first question, and I can answer this one, is will we share the slides after the webinar? And yes. The second question is, do you package your curriculum in a summer camp or workshop format versus classroom based?
That's a great question. So yes, so the curriculum that we either develop or we partner with is intended to be very flexible. And so as we would work alongside, we would identify You know, if that is for a summer camp or an out of school setting, what does that need to look like? But yes, all of the curriculum and the way it's packaged and delivered can be used in a very flexible manner, whether that's inside of a classroom or outside of a classroom.
Okay, and the next question, is there any funding or grants available for these products?
It's a great question as well. So a lot of what we're seeing is a lot of states that are in starting with or creating mandates from that K to 12 landscape is that they're adding additional funding through grant, like different grant opportunities. So sometimes that's state by state. From an ESSER funding standpoint, we know that that is coming to an end, but we're also seeing a lot of funding for that out of school time, for that remediation, learning loss, being able to be applied to programs around computer science and the hands-on experience. Several states that we work with will have state level STEM grants that computer science funnels into. My best suggestion is to look from the state level to see what's going on out there. And we also have a grants website that we can include in the email with grants that we've identified that a solution or a program like computer science, building out a computer science program would fit into. Title II money, if you're looking for PD, that's also an area of funding where we've worked alongside school districts to help implement and get some of these programs up and running is through the training of the teachers.
Okay, the next question is, what types of accommodations and scaffolds do these programs have for special education students in the mild to moderate cognitive range for K2 and also 3-5? And another question, if reading is required, is there text-to-speech accessibility?
It's a great question. So from a accessibility standpoint, the way that the curriculum is built is it's scaffold to be able to be differentiated, whether that's needing to go lower or upper, or as far as in complexity. As far as the hardware goes, that whole collaboration, we've had a lot of feedback on the hands-on component and the kind of entry level of what's required from the hands-on component really does support the needs of all students, regardless of their dexterity or that hand-eye kinesthetic learning. From a standpoint of the speech to text, all of our digital content has both verbal instructions, but it also has closed caption as well, so that if students have visual issues, they can hear it and receive the information that way, or if they have a hearing impairment, they can visually see the content. So for example, when Annika was talking about Luma being fully digitally delivered, when the students are getting that content, they're going to be both hearing it and they're also going to be seeing it on the screen. Annika, do you have anything else to expand on that?
I don't think so. I think you covered it pretty well.
Okay.
Okay, for the next question, can you talk through how many students are recommended to work with each of the solutions?
Awesome question. So with Bbot, that can be flexible. So if you're in a kindergarten classroom and you want a small group of 3 to 4 students working on a mat together, where they can take turns practicing, that can work. You could also work with Bbot and Bluebot in a 2-to-1 setting, so 2 students per Bbot or Bluebot. Like in the second grade example, where we're talking about more whole class, you know, part of that core curriculum, you're going to want a more 2-to-1 ratio. Kubo is similar. You're going to want 1 Kubo per 2 students, so you're fostering that collaboration. You're ensuring that there's equitable hands-on opportunities for students to be building the program and collaborating. Code Cube is a little bit different. You can do it 1-to-1, or you can do it 2-to-1. Either way, it works. When you start to move into Luma, that goes back to a 2-to-1 ratio. So again, fostering that creativity and collaboration together. And then the twin science can actually go up to 4-to-1, where they're working in a little bit larger group, especially if we're thinking about using it as like that supplemental project-based science component, having a little bit larger groups working with it.
And one last question. For teachers who, oh, sorry, we do have a few more. So for teachers who may not have as much computer science experience, they may not know where to start in demonstrating and helping students and supporting them through the process. What kind of training do they need, and how much computer science content do they need to support those students?
It's a great question. Love these questions. So, one of our key focal points, whether we're developing a proprietary product or we're partnering to bring on a solution, is ensuring that especially in the focus in elementary, is that regardless of the solution that is brought on, that teachers and students with no prior background in coding or computer science can be successful. And so from the hardware to the software, ensuring that it's quick to get set up and implement, and that they have the content resources to be successful. So all of the solutions that we talked about today have some type of teacher resource that provides, whether that be a scope and sequence, like with Kubo, you can put in exactly what you're wanting to do, and you can get a scope and sequence that will tell you, I want to cover these computer science concepts. Here's your scope and sequence. Here's the activity. Here's the questions to ask. Here's what you're looking for from an assessment standpoint. To Bebot, where it's an activity guide that has those basic activities and introductions to help get students going, to something like Illuma, which has a really robust curriculum that can be used as your core computer science curriculum in those upper level grades, where the content is being delivered digitally, very low lift for the teacher. Teacher is the facilitator and to kind of help guide the learning, but all of the actual content to be facilitated to the students are delivered through it, and that's roughly 40 hours. So kind of going back to what we talked about in the beginning, what's your why? What do you, how are we implementing this, and how much time do we need? How much content do we need? That helps kind of drive what solution is going to be the best fit for you. And from a professional development standpoint, we offer professional development across the board, regardless of what solution that you're looking to implement. There is we offer e-learning, in person, and then we also have a group of education advisors that are out spread amongst the US that are also there to help support. So in one of the first slides, we talked about being a partner and also ensuring that teachers feel supported. So there's always going to be content available for implementation and also support in helping design that program. There was another question about, which solutions do we feel like need professional development and which ones don't. Typically, when we start to get up into like the Luma and the twin science, that's when we start to see more of the teacher need of the in-person training. But for programs like Bebot and Bluebot, a lot of times through working with program design and also looking through the curriculum, again, easy implementation and easy to get up and running. Annika, from your experience, do you have some stuff to add?
I was going to add on to that and say, I mean, yes, PITSCO and the curriculums we have really support teachers and make it easy for you to start without a ton of background knowledge right out of the box. But also I feel like when with computer science, how we really want students to build their problem solving skills and build their pair programming, collaboration, communication skills. It's okay to also, when a student runs into an issue, to be like, how do you think you would solve that? Like, what have you tried so far? Or who could you ask to help you? Because some students will really take to it and they can become those experts in the classroom to kind of help guide others. So it's almost better if, even if you do know the solution, to kind of step back a little bit and use questions to help students figure out so that they can build those skills even more.
Okay, another question. How many B-bots and Kubos are in each kit? And how many kits would need to be purchased to use with an entire class of 25?
Good question. So with the Bbot, you can purchase it individually, or we also have a getting started package, which includes 6 Bbots. And it has a hive, which you set it on, that charges the Bbots when they're not in use. So if you're looking to do a kind of a 2-to-1 ratio, you would need 13 Bbots to run the classroom. If you were using Kubo, you would need 13 Kubos to run a classroom of 25 if they're working in pairs. If you're working in a bigger group, let's say 3 to 4 students, then you would need half of that to get going. So you would need 6 to 7 Bbots to get going to support a classroom. So it just depends on how you want to set it up. 2-to-1, 13. If you're working with the both Bbot and Kubo, but if Bbot you're looking for bigger groups, then you could get away with 6 or 7.
Okay. And last question, how will they receive the certificate after the webinar?
Good question. It will be emailed to you when we send out the recording. Once it is ready, it will be attached and included with that email.
Okay, that's all the questions I see.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. As we mentioned, this session has been recorded and we will send the link to all registrants and attendees via email. For more information or to view the Elementary Computer Science Solution Guide. So we know we covered a lot of information here. So we also have a solution guide that provides additional context and allows you to kind of more visually look through what makes up these solutions. So you can visit that. Heather just posted that in the comments section. But we really appreciate you being here today. Enjoyed our time with you. Great questions. We hope you learned a little bit about solutions and ways to think about bringing elementary computer science into your K-6 classroom. And if we can ever be of any help or you have any additional questions, please feel free to reach out. Thank you again and have a great day.